Welcome to DITL, where we dig into a day in the life of the most interesting people. I'm your host, Paige Port, and today I am sitting down with Dr. Taz, a board-certified integrative medicine physician, founder of Center Spring MD, author of the new book, The Hormone Shift, and Gwyneth Paltrow's trusted hormone guru. Dr. Taz, I am so excited to diddle with you today.
Oh, I love it. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be so fun. I am recently postpartum. My hormones are probably crazy and all over the place. So selfishly, I'm excited to hear all of your tips and tricks and how we can get this under control. But talk us through the beginning of your day. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a physician, you're a podcaster, you're insane, you're all over the place. What does your morning look like?
My mornings are precious. If I had my way, I honestly, please don't laugh, I'd probably be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But there's something about waking up before everyone else is up, before the sun is up, and just having a moment to yourself. It's actually really precious. But I don't wake up at 4. I actually wake up at 5. And it starts with a couple of rituals that have developed over time. I had actually, you said I'm a wife, and I had for a long time, 5 a.m. was me kind of squirreling away, going down to my little home office. I have a little meditation area in there, doing breath work, doing meditation. I love to journal. I love to write, dumping all my thoughts out. But what that routine was doing is it was creating, believe it or not, some separation between my husband and I, because what he wanted to do was to connect and to talk and to bond, because by the end of the day, we're both wiped from everything we've been through all day long. So I actually switched it up over the last year and a half, and this is what the morning looks like now. We both have tea and coffee together. I drink tea, he drinks coffee, and we talk about the day, talk about things on our minds. We spend probably 15 to 20 minutes doing that. Then either we will choose, and this is where we start to separate out as our day begins. He may jump on the treadmill or do some form of exercise. I may do the same if I'm not having to go into clinic. But what I do then is try to get at least 10 minutes now of that breath work, meditation. I'll do anything from listen to an app that does sound baths to, again, back to journaling and writing and just trying to clear. I'm a big believer in clearing my energy, getting super centered, because I've come to realize, you realize I've had my practice for 15 years. I talk to people every day. Like, if I'm not centered and in a good space energetically,
Right.
then I can't, first of all, I don't get the visions and the communication and everything from the people in front of me. But secondly, I just don't bring, my A game to the table.
Yeah.
So the next 10, so that's 15, 20 minutes, and that's the next 10-ish, 15-ish minutes. And then it's literally like lights on, scramble begins.
And what time is that?
Now we're hitting about 6.
Okay.
So by 6 a.m., it is like go. And go means, a list for, the person that helps us at home, a list for the person that picks up the kids, emails off to the team, because I'm going to get busy in patient care and my head's not going to be in the admin or the business component of the practices. So doing all of that, answering any media questions or questions my publicists have, taking care of, the logistics of running like 3 different companies kind of at one time. Then that's till 7-ish. I go down by about 7. The reason I don't go down earlier than 7 is because the dog is asleep and I don't want to wake him up. So how
are you getting tea and coffee?
My husband's bringing it up. So my husband tiptoes and he brings it up. And so 7 to 7:30. I don't know if you want all this detail.
I love it.
This is a lot of detail. I didn't even realize I have like all this down. So
but
much.
That's
Right.
I think the beauty of this. It's like really getting into what's working, what's not. And I think what you said about like that special time with your husband in the morning and shifting that from the end of the day to the morning and starting the day together is part of why I want to do this podcast, is because we don't think about those things, but they actually make up a huge part of laying the foundation of our day.
Very much. And, if he was here, what he would tell you, and he's told me this, is that I'm so wiped and he is too, by the end of our days, right? Like, he's a dentist, I'm a doctor. We're absorbing everyone's energy. We're also running our practices in our companies. We have children, so by the end of the day, there's not a lot of quality reserve. I mean, we sit next to each other, we eat together, we might watch a show together, but we're tired, you know? And, to really get the best from each other, we found that 15, 20 minutes, even though it's not very long, it just sort of sets the rhythm for both of us, in terms of our relationship. So it's been amazing for our relationship and our communication. Now, someone like me, I can buckle down and work, till I, go nuts. I'm just wired that way. He's not necessarily that way. So I'm always correcting myself a little bit to be like, okay, I really love this person. I never want him to feel neglected or on the outside of what I do. What do I do to bring him in, or to put this other stuff off to the side for a second and come back? And so that's been a real challenge for me, and I'm seeing it in my son, who is now 14 and wired a little bit like me. Like, he will come home on a Friday at 3, drop all his books, sit at the desk to start studying for a test that's on Monday, and I'm like, Cubby, take a break. Like, what's going on? And it's because there's work to do, and if there's work to do, the work needs to be done, and he can't naturally separate, like, okay, I can get to this stuff later. So that's very much a life skill that I had to learn through trial and error, and that I hope he learns too.
Yeah. As the hormone guru, when you think about that morning routine and starting the day with tea, your husband starting with coffee, a lot of people say, like, don't start your day just on coffee. A lot of hormone disruptors, things like that. What is your take, and how do you incorporate food into the day, like having tea first, coffee first? What does that all look like?
Definitely. And my husband and I have had this conversation. And he's so desperate for me to switch from tea to coffee, which I won't. And I'm so desperate for him to switch from coffee to tea, which he won't.
My husband and I are the opposites. I'm the coffee, and my husband's the tea.
The tea person.
And I need the coffee to start my day. Like,
that's what he says.
With working out, I have my electrolytes first, and then a workout, and then my coffee.
Yeah.
So I'm changing it.
Yeah.
But my husband is tea, and I'm coffee.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as a wellness hormone person, I have tried, but haven't gotten very far, and definitely haven't won that battle yet. He loves his coffee. We're going to let him have his coffee. So, we've talked about it. He knows the pros and cons of coffee and kind of, what's involved in all of that. But again, it's his journey, and as a wife, you can only say things so many times before you start to sound like white noise. So I just drop it. But anyhow, like, tea for me, the beauty of tea is that it's slow, right? You can't gulp tea. You usually have to steep the tea bag. You have to let it soak for a second. There's a ritual to drinking tea, and I think I like that. And I like the warmth and able to hold the cup, right? There's all this tactile stuff that I like with drinking tea, whereas he wants the caffeine. He's drinking coffee for the caffeine. And I'm not necessarily drinking tea for the caffeine. I'm drinking it more for a ritual that I associate with for the morning,
Right. And what about food?
So food is really important to us. So I left you at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Let's pick back up.
Yes,
so
please.
7 a.m.
Thank you for keeping us on track.
7 a.m. I hit the kitchen. And that's where, smoothies. I make protein smoothies for myself, for my husband.
What's going in that?
So it's usually
like what powders, all the ingredients,
all the
specifics.
details.
Yeah.
You like the details. So, we'll play with different ones, but generally we're using one from Metagenics. They have a protein powder, so I'll use either the chocolate or the vanilla. Garden of Life has one too that I like a lot, and then I'm developing my own too, so we've been sampling different formulations, so playing somewhere between those 3 different brands of protein powders. And I like protein powders because they're quick. I like them because I can get the 20 to 30 grams of protein in without having to sit and eat, because remember, I'm moving around and I'm running, and for me to now even eat a big meal like that, I feel sick, honestly. So we do protein smoothies. My son wants one now too, so I'll probably make 3 of those. My daughter's not into all of that. I pack everyone's lunches, so mine and my husband's, and then sort of prep for the kids. The kids are now teenagers, so they're eating at school. I don't necessarily need to prep their lunch. But what's happening with teenagers, very similar to what happened when they were toddlers, is that they don't eat the food at school. They don't want to. Now, there's social reasons they don't want to eat food at school, or, or they get busy doing something else. So they're not eating at school. So they're hitting the house before their sports or activities at 3 or 3:30, famished. So I usually try to have a couple of things just like ready to go because they're hungry, So that's food prep. Everything else food prep wise, I've usually done on the weekend or the day before, or the person that helps us at home kind of half preps for me. So she may wash and cut up vegetables, she may cut up the meat, she may boil potatoes or pasta, but when I get home from work, I actually put all of that together. So that's food. And then kind of, I joke, like 7:30, the kitchen's closed. I'm not going back in there. So 7:45-ish, I head out to the clinic, or if I'm not in the clinic that particular day, then I'm working out, trying to do some form of a workout, and then getting
What do you like to do for working out?
Well, I've been playing with things. So I ruptured my Achilles back in December. Prior to that, I was an avid hot yoga, Pilates, like the Megaformer Pilates person, and then spin bike and all that other stuff. After the rupture, couldn't do any of that. 6 months later, which was June, I could slowly start to do some things again. So I actually got a little bit into weight training and started picking up some weights. I never really loved weights or weight training, but it is the one thing I could do in addition to walking and stuff like that. So now that I'm better, I'm now about 9-10 months out. I'm back to hot yoga, which is my true love, and I am trying to now mix in the weights along with yoga and biking, and just trying to do, I really listen to my body, honestly, trying to do what my body wants me to do. Like if I've done a heavy day of weights, then the next day I don't want to do that again. I want to do something different.
And is there something like, in going back to just hormones in the morning routine, like, is there something that you say that we should all be staying away from in the morning and being cognizant of just spikes and hormones? And
definitely. I mean, I think your morning rhythm needs to be determined by what your night was like. So if you have not slept through the night, and you've had a really rough night for whatever reason, you don't need to be drinking a ton of coffee in the morning, working out super hard, because you are driving your body further into what we call adrenal fatigue, right? So high cortisol demanding that the body does more when it doesn't really have the reserves. So when we do that to the body repetitively, then we do crash the hormones. Specifically, we crash, the adrenals, and we crash thyroid as well. So those are the two that crash out when we demand that the body does that. So there's a little bit of understanding. There's all this information about health out there, but what did your previous day look like? What did your night look like? What's your stress load right now? And you want to balance the stress load with the form of movement and food that you choose. So if you're super, super stressed, that might not be the time to go in there and do heavy, heavy weights, right? It may be better to get out in nature. It might be better to do something like yoga or swimming that kind of calms the body down a little bit. So again, I've gotten to the point with myself, not everyone's at that same point. I've had the ability to sit in this space, right, for a long time. So I can kind of listen and be like, I can't pick up a weight today. I can't do it, and move forward. But I've gotten better about honoring kind of where my energy is, and therefore what does my morning need to look like.